I've said it once and I'll say it again. I am a DC man till I die. I love the comics, and Batman is my absolute favorite superhero. But I don't know what they're doing with the movies. So this is the review desk. I'm Desmond Carrick, and let's try to figure out what's going on here. Yesterday, there was a rumor going around that Batgirl was reportedly canceled. Now, obviously, rumors you're supposed to take with a grain of salt. So I waited for an official message from Warner Brothers, and it turns out that the movie was indeed canceled. Now, canceled is probably not the correct word because the movie's finished. It's simply not being released. Why? Well, reportedly, they took a look at the screenings. They realized, hey, there's no way we can salvage this thing, so let's shelve it. A completed movie is opted to be left on the shelves and written off for tax purposes. I have said before, I'm a DC man till I die, but I cannot stand the DCEU. And this is one of the major problems that the franchise has. There is no plan. You're canceling your Batgirl movie. You have Michael Keaton instead of Ben Affleck, obviously, in the film. You do have J.K. Simmons as Commissioner Gordon, which means it does take place in the DCEU. So how do you expect, after a move like this, movie viewers and fans to keep investing into your franchise? How are you going to convince people to say, oh, you know what, I'm going to go see Black Adam. I'm going to go see Flash. I'm going to go see whatever Green Lantern project they might release in the near future. The truth of the matter is, even if fans do go purely out of loyalism to your company and your brand, they're not going to go because their investment will be rewarded. Now, for me, one of the biggest problems with this movie started with the casting. There seems to be a lot of ethnicity bending at DC for some unknown reason. It seems to be that they're changing ethnicity and genders of characters simply to shake things up. With Marvel, it's often done to promote the story or to tell a different story, with the exception of Taskmaster, where I still feel they failed miserably. But the less said about that, the better. Now, my concerns were raised the minute they cast a Dominican American actress. Now, for the record, the only reason I had an issue with this is because Batgirl is white in the comics, as we know. She is recognized by her red hair, which her brother shares. And what exactly is the reason for changing into her Dominican American? Perhaps the movie would have given us a good reason for this. I was concerned when I saw the name of who was scoring the music, namely Natalie Holt. Now, Natalie Holt is famous for scoring Loki for the Disney Plus platform. Now, you might say, yes, she's famous. I mean, people like Ludwig Göransson, after getting much needed exposure, they're getting more jobs. The same with Lauren Balfe, who, after a stint on several movies, including Mission Impossible Fallout, was also getting more work in Hollywood. The fact that they got somebody who was already attached to a Marvel project, no problem. But this is a really, really risky move. On one hand, you could say there's no way they could recoup the budget, which was estimated at $90 million, which is pretty much on the low side for a recent superhero film. But to watch this movie and have so little faith in it that you're going to cancel it because you're afraid you're going to lose all that money, you'd rather write it off to get a tax return. That says to me you have absolutely no faith in the film, but it also says there was very little oversight. It also confirms that there was no plan at all. This is like Star Wars Solo, where the directors went in a certain direction, they were stopped in the middle of the process, a new director was brought in, and the film was basically reshot from scratch. Now, despite the fact that Solo ended up being a very, very poor film, at least during the process, somebody halted it and said, let's throw this overboard, let's try something else. In the case of Batgirl, we're talking about a film that was completed, viewed by executives or heads of Warner Brothers, I'm guessing, and then they decide, you know what, we're not satisfied with this. We have ramped up the cost because of COVID delays, and we're not going to reshoot, we're just going to shelve this movie. I repeat, this film is completed, and they chose not to release it because they're afraid to lose money. If you're afraid to lose money, that says to me you have no faith in your product. How am I, as a viewer, as an audience member, supposed to have faith in your product and invest in it by buying tickets to the movies or getting an HBO Max subscription? Now, I won't be quick to say that the people down at Warner are incompetent. This has been going downhill ever since the merger with AT&T and recently Discovery. We had the DC Universe streaming platform that featured shows such as Young Justice. People subscribe because they want to support this content, and then barely a year after, we were told, oh, guess what? Everything's moving to this new service called HBO Max. Now, reports are that HBO Max will be fused with Discovery Plus, probably because Discovery isn't getting that many subscribers. The problem is, of course, that people who went from DC Universe to HBO Max, or people who subscribe to HBO Max specifically to be able to watch Warner content like Justice League Unlimited or new shows like Peacemaker, they now have to face the fact that they'll be paying for Discovery Plus in a bundle, something that they might not necessarily need. Keep in mind that Warner Bros. Made the controversial decision to release their movies simultaneously on their streaming service HBO Max and in theaters. Now, they got a lot of flack for this from film creators such as Christopher Nolan, who felt the idea was preposterous. It was a bold move, but if now you're backing off, basically saying maybe it wasn't such a good idea to begin with, the fact that The Batman was the first movie not to be released simultaneously on HBO Max and theatrically, which I was expecting. The Batman is far too big to release both on streaming and in theaters. Now, with Black Adam being scheduled to release this year, next year we have Shazam! Fury of the Gods and Aquaman 2, I'm a little concerned that fans won't really pull out in droves to go see these films. There is a saving grace for both Black Adam and Aquaman. Black Adam stars Dwayne Johnson. The man has an electric personality, and people will probably go see the film because of him. The problem is that if it were not to be up to par, it might suffer the same fate as Lightyear, an enormous drop in visitation after its first week and bad word of mouth. In the case of Aquaman, people enjoyed the first film. I've been reading that Jason Momoa has been given a bit more freedom in terms of the script for this film. It might actually boost attendance, but in the case of Shazam, I'm afraid that people are going to take a step back from the DCEU, and it's going to be only the hardcore fans who will be visiting the theater to go support these films simply because they are DC characters. I want DC to succeed. It is my favorite comic book house of the great two. I enjoy Marvel, but DC has always been my preference. I'm hoping that this move by Warner Brothers does not destroy what is left of the DCEU, even though it's been hanging by a thread, because we still have Wonder Woman and Aquaman established, Shazam is getting a sequel, and his franchise is expanding with Black Adam. But where does Ben Affleck's Batman lie? Michael Keaton was cast as Batman in Batgirl, but we were under the impression that since he was also cast in The Flash, he would be portraying an alternate universe Batman and not a stand-in for Ben Affleck. The problem with this is that if Keaton replaces Affleck, he's considerably older than Affleck, so it won't make any sense that this is the same guy who we saw from Batman v Superman all the way to Justice League, Snyder Cut or otherwise. So I hope that after Flashpoint, DC just reboots the whole thing, recasts, and puts it in the hands of someone more competent to handle the universe, their shared universe, so that it can finally get off the ground and people can really see what the DC characters have to offer. A lot of people online are saying that Marvel should be worried about the quality of Phase 4, but in case of Warner Brothers, they have to worry about their entire franchise. Warner Brothers is releasing their quarterly report on August 4th, which is Thursday. Hopefully they have something good to say about their future plans and a bit better of an explanation what's going on here with Batgirl, but as I've said, it does not look good. If you enjoyed this video, give a like and subscribe. We'll see you next time.